So there was, I don't know if you heard of this, but there was an attack on deep inside Russia, about 300 kilometers northwest or north of Moscow. I forgot the name of the region, I'm sorry. But which hit a military base, or better said, a military depot. Provoked huge explosions. And if you take a look at the satellite images of this place, it's a Soviet era hugely fortified depot, prepared to withstand strong attacks. We don't know exactly what caused the explosions that we've seen on many videos that were shared on social media, because they had a lot of, from what we could see, they had a lot of ordnance which was not placed under fortified installations. Some of it was even, like, it seems, we're not 100% sure, it seems that it was just laying outside in boxes. So, but it was a pretty big explosion. So it either was a big detonation, or a set of many things detonating at once. We don't know for sure, and we can only assess the damage afterwards, when we get images from the place after the explosion. All we know is that I saw images. Again, I cannot verify their I do not know if they are true, if they are real, or if they are filmed in another place, because it's those flashy images where you see drones flying and hitting places. There are such videos. The kind of drones that are seen in the videos were the same that were used in the last week's attack. This kind of, they look like small airplane drones. And the question arises, because there is now, of course, the more lack of information there is, the more speculation there is, right? I'll try to put some scenarios, but try not to speculate, because there are people that are claiming that this is impossible to have been done only solely by the Ukrainians and the means at their disposal, and this was an operation of NATO. And if that's so, it's like really hitching to start World War III, which they, I don't know if they are, or if they are just careless. I know there are a lot of intelligent people on NATO operational side, but intelligent doesn't mean wise. And a lot of dumb things can be done with intelligence. They can be very smart in designing new ways of destroying the enemy, and be very careless in provoking something bigger, right? So there is this speculation that missiles were used, ballistic missiles were used. Another speculation is that the attack might have been coming from one of the Baltic countries, from Latvia. We don't know any of this. There are other versions that tell that was an attack made with 50-60 drones, that some were also heading to Moscow but were intercepted, and the ones heading to that direction were not. So you have versions for all tastes. I really am not sure, but one thing I am positive, is that I do not know what means if the Ukrainians really start using the Western ballistic missiles or not. But one thing I know is that they would be unable to do that without Western targeting, Western logistics, Western apparatus support. I do not rule out that ballistic missiles from the West were used. I do not rule out that. And of course, when you see this kind of thing, if you are, I'm not talking about pro or anti anything, but if you have a little bit of wisdom, you know that someone is crossing the line. Someone is doing shit, is doing a lot of shit, big time, screwing big time. And this is so because I do not believe that the Russians will stay idle. I do praise the patience of the Russians because I think this is it's very wise not to start a thermonuclear war, right? But I think the enemy of the Russians plays into this, and takes advantage of this. Like, I can imagine some people saying that make the call, and the other guy, but this is risky, Russians can respond, blah blah blah, and they claiming that they do not believe that Russians are capable of responding in a thermonuclear way. Let's put it this way. And one thing I think for me is that I surely hope so they are not, for the good of all. But I do hate this kind of behavior on the side of NATO. I mean, they've been the instigators, the provocateurs. They have been, I can say that they have been sole responsible, the US and the UK, for this war. All facts point to that. And now, because Ukrainians are having their arses kicked on the front lines, every desperate measure is being tried. The so-called Zelensky peace plan, and it's a lot of fuckery going on. It's a lot of bullshit. I mean, people, oh no, we do not authorize this or that weapon, and of course, weapon is already there and ready to use. I just hope the Russians, a lot of pro-Russians get very angry because the Russians do not respond in force immediately. But I hope the Russians respond thinking long-term and calmly, and do not respond, never. One should never respond when its nerves are hot, when its emotions are high. Never. Carefully plan their response, and I think that's what they will do. And in the meantime, on the side of the West, the defenders of freedom, your freedom, and all the good in the world, it seems like Israel is resorting to real terrorist attacks. I mean, not just leveling civilian areas and committing genocide, but also making bombs blow up in civilian areas, supermarkets, crowded streets, whatever, in Lebanon. I'm talking about the pager and walkie-talkie attack. These devices that started exploding, these sabotage devices. And after this, I mean, there's no argument for Israel is the only democracy. Israel has the right to defend itself. I mean, take your own conclusions. I'm not gonna say it, otherwise YouTube might censor the video. But take your own conclusions. What do you think? There have been opinion polls in the UK. For example, 66% inquired in the UK disapprove of Israel's actions, and the majority thinks it shouldn't exist. Yeah, I mean, even with all the propaganda in the world, it's very hard to hide all the mess they are creating there, all the mayhem and chaos. All of this is sponsored by the West. Again, I do not want to demonize. I do not want to demonize any country and saying this is bad and the other is good, but it's clear here that the empire is doing everything it can to maintain and expand its influence at the expense of everyone else's in the world. And it saddens me that most of the Western people, for example in Europe, we are happily and calmly watching Europe becoming non-democratic. And this is not just from now, it has been going for some years. It has been going from some years now. When you see the likes of low-cost version of evil on earth like Ursula von der Leyen and now Kaja Kallas and John Mitchell and the other powers that are not elected by scrutiny, just warmongers, promoting war, supporting fascism, supporting NAZIs, using all but democratic rhetoric and peace rhetoric, and everyone stands idle, peaceful, watching this. It's a bit disgusting. State of affairs in Europe. Germany just closed its borders. Imagine if Portugal or Greece did that in the European Union. Imagine that. What would happen? So Germany just violated Schengen without even asking anyone. They are shooting themselves in the foot. They escort NAZI marches and they beat other protesters, but not the NAZIs. I mean, you have in Germany and in France, you have the last legitimate governments of all times, I think, since World War II has ended. Okay, guys, enough rambling. A bit tired, gonna hit the bed. I hope I see you on the next one.